Greetings, my fellow hunters, and welcome again. Today, we're going to be taking out our philosophy books, ponder what it means to be a human, something the guys up at Betsy's could undergo before going a bit cuckoo, and basically put on some blindfolds, so that way we are not blinded by the truth. If you're wondering why I sound so pretentious, it's because I think we're going to be doing the Nier Automata review. Not the game, the anime that recently came out. So, as I always say, my hunters, let the hunt begin! So, the story of Nier Automata is quite interesting because I know how it goes because I played the game. So I know how it ends, the characters and all sorts. However, it is slightly different, and I will basically explain now before I get into the story. So basically, what happens in this series is that it explains things that happened in outside sources, like the Yorha stage play, the books, and other sources of materials that are technically canon to the Nier Automata series. So, basically, now with that out of the way, let me get to the story. So, the story is set in the distant future where humanity is on the moon, basically created a bunch of androids to fight an alien threat, aka Yorha, to fight the invaders that try to destroy the Earth and destroy humanity. So basically it's down to a group of androids to battle them. However, we do not see the humans as they are on the moon, and we always hear pre-recorded messages, but anyway, that's not important right now. The story basically follows two characters, 2B and 9S, as they basically search the part of the Earth they are on for nothing much. They're just there to basically battle androids, and as things go on, they unlock more secrets, new plots and threads have come about, and revelations happen that I will not say because they have not happened yet, but I know they have happened because I played the games. But I won't reveal anything for those who haven't played the games. So, there is some interesting facts that it also has an interesting way of tying into old games. For those who don't know, Nier Automata is technically the sequel to the previous game, Nier Gestalt, or Nier Replicant. Though for the case, I believe Nier Replicant is technically the true game. Haven't played it yet. Anyway, but I digress. Anyway, it actually does a good few callbacks in one episode to a certain character that happened there, and very interesting. Now, the way the story is now, it's very light on things. It has a lot of philosophical discussions, talks about humanity, what it means to be human, alive, etc., etc. And case in point, the plot about the whole androids fighting aliens to save humanity is an interesting one, I'll grant that. But it's very much shifted aside very quickly for other things, as I have said, for the whole philosophical thing and talking about humanity, etc., etc., and a deep-suited conspiracy about things that have not happened yet, but again, I know because I played the games. So, yeah, knowing that I've played the games, I know what's going to be hit. So it's difficult for me to say things without getting too spoiler-rific. But I can assure you, for what we've got right now, it hits the notes that the games have shown. So it basically shows the boss battle with the Simone, some other things, like I said, about other sources of things like the Yorha stage play and the books, etc., etc. And it basically brings into a few changes that I found interesting that I really didn't realize. Because certain things in the games happen that didn't happen in the series, well, in the anime, but they basically show a different perspective of how things went in the game. It's also fine. It does a nice few twists and turns for those who did play the game, so it doesn't feel like predictable, but at the same time it is predictable. I know that sounds contradictory, but that's how I feel like the series is. It's predictable and unpredictable because, you know, I played the games. So, after the story, we always talk about the characters and everything else about them. Because there's only two main casts, that being 2B and 9S, I will be mostly focusing on those two. I could talk about all the side characters and how they're important, but you know how I normally do this. I focused on the two main characters since we basically follow their shoes. And so I will give my opinion on how I think they are. Simple as that, you know the drill. First up, we have 2B. Or not to be, that is the question we all ask. I'm sorry, I couldn't help it. But anyway, my jokey jokes aside, 2B is the main female protagonist of the stories, and a very Interesting design, as you could tell from the pictures. But anyway, 2B is what we would call cold and emotionless. She's distant. She doesn't show her emotions out. She's basically focused on the mission, and she keeps parading the rules that emotions are forbidden. But yet, under those cracks, you could actually see a hint of emotions spur from the hard exterior that she basically portrays. That's not the only thing that's hard. Anyway, 2B basically shows some level of companionship or compassion to her fellow Android 9S. But she keeps it cold and distant and rarely shows it, but when she does show it, it is very much as if she's in love with the poor little android. I wouldn't blame the guy. Anyway, yeah, from what we've seen, she's a very interesting character. She basically holds up to what we say as that she is stern, focused, and that she has some secrets that are going to be revealed later on in the series that are very interesting. Spoilers. Anyway, yes, 2B, a very interesting character that's cold, calculative, not calculative, but very caring when she shows it. Next up, we have 9S, who is the young, curious one, who basically has more of a childlike curiosity to him. He's always wanting to learn more, experience more, understand more of what it's a human. And compared to his battle unit 2B, 9S is a scanner model, which kind of makes sense. He wants to understand and scan everything. And basically, he is more expressive in his emotions than, say, the cold 2B. He actually shows affection towards her, embarrassed and emotional a lot of the times. He wants to experience what it means to be a human, and basically wants to do a lot of things, but which is shown in the series, such as like one time he was fancied of basically going shopping with 2B like if it was shopping for new clothes. And I have to say, he is one that would say that the audience would say it is more along the lines, because like us, he is curious about everything, about the world, about everything, and it's just interesting because I think as we learn, he learns. So it's an interesting dynamic, but I can't really complain about 9S because he's naive and young until certain events happen that I will not share. But overall, he's fairly well written, and he, like his companion 2B, made the transition from game to anime fairly unscathed. I can not see any problems with that. My opinion on the whole series is that 9S and 2B make a fairly safe transition from the games to the anime fairly fine. They are the characters we first see in the games, just transition to the anime, like I said, perfectly fine. And I could talk about more characters like Pascal, who is basically like an android a machine life form that basically denounced violence and lives in a pacifistic village and wants to live as a human does in a passive life. We could talk about A2, an android who's learned the secrets of Yorha and wants to be on her own. Or we could talk about the Yorha commander, or basically Lily, or any other character that basically appears in the series, because they all have their interesting backstories, motivations, secrets. It all feels all so human. And if that was the point that Yoko Taro wanted to point out, he's succeeded fairly well. So yes, the characters are written well, they're fine, and they're interesting, and you can't ask anything more for a series like this. The animation for the series is, gotta say, very well done. It's beautiful. I like how they basically managed to emulate a lot of things from the game. Case in point, when it's on the bunker, it's very grey and the colors are muted out. When it's on the world, it's basically very brutal and vibrant. I like the contrast of those two because it shows interesting contrast. I repeat, redundant, I know. But I also feel fair that it basically emulates the style of the games pretty well. 2D models are basically on point and difficult to translate normally from 3D to 2D, but 2B and 9S fairly come out fairly unscathed. In fact, I'd say they're actually very well animated and very well designed and drawn. But again, I think the 2B was designed well from the beginning. Besides that, the animation is crisp, clean, and basically got good visual effects and particle effects. It's got a smooth animation style to it. Action scenes are very well animated and choreographed. What do we have? And basically very little to complain on that front, fortunately, which is a shame because if it was bad, I would actually something to get an arc on. But sadly, it's all fine, dandy, beautifully animated, and well done. Now, if I did a review on the game, I think one of the big highlights I would have mentioned was that the Nier Automata games had a beautiful and well-orchestrated soundtrack. And as someone who plays a lot of Souls, that's a lot of comment for me to say. So, doesn't mean and, so that means I can say that the Nier Automata anime has a pretty good soundtrack. While yes, it reuses some of the old music from the games, I don't consider that a bad thing, considering the fact that it keeps the feel. It does have a few original tracks, mainly the opening and ending, which I have to say, I really don't like the opening music. I don't know why, but every time I listen to it, it feels like the person who's singing it is just clawing chalk sometimes, and the music feels chaotic. And I don't know if that's a quote for it, or if that's the reason why, but that's how I feel that the music is. It's very chaotic, it doesn't have any good rhythm to it. Though again, I'm not a music expert, this is just my layman's opinion on it. But besides that, it reuses some of the old songs from, say, the Song of Beauty, Weight of the World, and all those old tracks from the game to great fanfare and effect, honestly. I would be disappointed if they didn't use any of the soundtracks from the game. Thankfully they did, and we basically can say it's a very solid track. So, not much to complain on that end, fortunately. So, now is the question. Is the Nier anime worth watching if you've played the games or are a big fan of any of Yoko Taro's work? And the question I have to answer that is, I don't know. I know it's a weird thing, and it's a weird answer coming from me that basically thinks that his opinion on the series, and you think I would recommend it. I would say it's worth a good watch. At the same time, I've listened to people who who are bigger fans than me, mind you. I know some people who have cherished Yoko Taro's works and explained how they are great, written in philosophy, etc., 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 and saying that that the anime doesn't catch the same thing as the games. But I could also make the argument that the games are completely different, as that is an interactive compared to a non-interactive media, compared to a game where you're the active participant, and compared to the anime where you are a passive participant. It's difficult for me to say this, but I would tacitly say, yes, I'd recommend the anime if you are a fan of Yoko Taro's works. But that also comes with the caveat that if you can just handle it. As someone who isn't a big fan of Yoko Taro's works, like I'm not the biggest deep dive into his lore. I'm more into Miyazaki's, Hidetaka Miyazaki, the creator of the Soul series, blah, 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 blah. That sort of person, compared to Yoko, I just say, give it a watch. Let me know what you think, because that could be your make or break it. I liked it, but again, I'm only a casual viewer, consumer of Yoko Taro's work, so not the best idea. And again, it's a great show. Animation's well done. The opening's a little miss and hit for me sometimes. I love it how they repurpose the old music. Go to hear something like A Beautiful Song, personal favorite of mine, can't tell. And basically reusing it for everything else. Yeah, it's okay. I don't know if it lived up to the hype. Barely does. But yes, that's the best tacit answer I can give. I give it a pass in my books, but I can understand if you're a bigger fan of Yoko Taro's work and not like it. But I suspect this would be more for the people who are not big into his work. So yes, my answer is give it a watch, and whether you like it or not, it's completely down to you. First off, I would like to thank my new Patreon hunter, Lucy, for pledging €5 on my Patreon. If you wish to support my Patreon, links will be down below. We can also have different goodies from €1 to up to I believe 150, and each perk has its own delightful little perks that comes with it. So yes, if you wish to support this hunter, please come to look down and pledge below. If you also enjoy it, my Twitter is also in the description. So is my Tumblr, as well as my Twitch, if you want to see me play some games. Also, my Discord is also down below if you'd like to support, to keep in contact with me, as I'm always on my Discord, loving to chat with my fans. Thank you very much for joining me. I hope you have a wonderful day, and may the good blood guide your way.